The Himalayas, the guardians of India, these snow-clad peaks of peace, have stood as silent witnesses to South Asia for centuries. But in June 2017, that long silence gave way to a great fear. The two largest armies in the world, two nuclear-armed neighbors, stood on the brink of a major war. No bullets were fired, no blood was shed, but for 73 days, the world held its breath. This is the story of Doklam. This is the story of the secret mission called Operation Juniper. It is the story of the human wall that India built against China's expansionist ambitions. To understand this story, we need to take a look at the map. The Siliguri Corridor, a narrow strip of land just 22 kilometers wide that connects India's northeastern states with the rest of the country. In military terms, this is called the chicken's neck. The chicken's neck is one of India's biggest vulnerabilities. If the enemy just squeezes this neck, that's enough for Northeast India to be cut off from the rest of the country. Ever since the war of 1962, China's eyes have always been on this corridor of India. The Doklam plateau is a part of Bhutan. But China claims that it belongs to them. Why are they eyeing this area? The reason is the Jampheri Ridge near Doklam. If China captures this ridge, their artillery can directly target the Siliguri Corridor. As far as India is concerned, that was a red line. On 16 June 2017, a patrolling team of the Royal Bhutan Army witnessed something unusual. China's People's Liberation Army was advancing into the disputed territory of Doklam with several bulldozers. And what was their objective? To construct a motorable road towards the Jampheri Ridge. Bhutan's small army protested against the Chinese troops, but in front of the massive construction machinery of the PLA, they were helpless. Bhutan immediately sent a distress message to New Delhi. The Chinese army is entering Doklam. We need the help of the Indian army. Emergency meetings were immediately convened at South Block in Delhi. Subsequently, the Cabinet Committee on Security, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, also discussed this issue. India had only two options before it. One, to turn a blind eye to this threat. That would be equivalent to abandoning Bhutan and also compromising India's security. Second, to confront this threat militarily. That could lead to a direct war with China. Moreover, the consequences could be severe. But the Prime Minister's directive was that we need not fear China. With that, India chose the second option. Indian army posts along the Sikkim border received urgent orders. The code name Operation Juniper. In the early hours of June 18th, a team of Indian soldiers led by majors and colonels crossed the border from the Doklam post in Sikkim towards the Chumbi Valley. Their mission was simple but dangerous: to stop the Chinese bulldozers. Do not open fire, but do not take a single step back either. The Chinese army did not expect this. They never thought the Indian army would respond so quickly and so strongly for Bhutan. The Indian soldiers lined up like a massive wall in front of the Chinese soldiers' vehicles. What followed was a rare sight in modern war history. A battle fought not with guns but with bodies. It was a human jam. Indian jawans stood firm with their chests out in front of the Chinese bulldozers. The PLA drivers had no way to move forward. They could only drive their vehicles over the bodies of these soldiers. That's when China realized that even touching a single Indian would spark a major war. The bulldozers came to this halt. The construction stopped, but the story didn't end there. At an altitude of about 14,000 feet above sea level, in those oxygen-deficient mountains, a face-off or standoff lasting 73 days began between the two armies. While soldiers stood face to face on the frozen mountain ranges of Sikkim, another battle was being fought in Beijing. To put it clearly, it was a psychological one. Chinese media tried to threaten India. They kept repeating, "Don't you remember 1962? They warned that if India did not back down, there would be countless losses and destruction. But New Delhi did not waver. At that time, Indian Army Chief General Bipin Rawat visited Sikkim. India's message to China was very clear. This was not the India of 1962, but the India of 2017. At the border, Chinese soldiers continuously played propaganda songs through loudspeakers. The Indian soldiers ignored it. They pitched tents and stocked up on the necessary rations, preparing themselves for a standoff that could last for months in that conflict zone. Looking straight into the eyes of the Chinese soldiers, the Indian soldiers stood their ground without blinking. Diplomats from both sides were tirelessly working to avoid war. India's stand was that the status quo at the border must be restored. The Chinese bulldozers must withdraw. Only then would the Indian soldiers also retreat. With each passing day, the fear of war kept increasing. In the month of August, China conducted a live-fire drill in Tibet. In response to this, India retaliated by deploying BrahMos missile batteries to the plains of Assam and stationing T-90 tanks at Nathula and Sikkim. With that, the whole world turned its attention towards both countries. Everyone thought that war was imminent. 20th August 2017. The 73-day-long India-China standoff finally came to an end. Diplomacy prevailed, but above all, the morale of the Indian army soared to new heights. On that very day, around 12 noon, a swift disengagement was announced between the armies of both nations. The Chinese bulldozer retreated. The road construction was abandoned. The Jampheri Ridge remained secure. With that, the Indian army also withdrew. China's route to the Siliguri Corridor was blocked. Those who claimed to be the world's second superpower had to back down in the face of India's firm resolve. Operation Juniper was not just a mere border dispute between India, China, and Bhutan. It was a clear message that New Delhi sent to the world. The present India is not the old India. Rather, it's a new India that is capable of protecting its own land and the trust of its friendly nations. This incident made even the enemies realize that. Beyond that, it also became clear that today's India is not hesitant to confront any superpower in the world, even militarily, if it is for the sake of its national interests. Jai Hind.